Hello, happy Friday, and welcome to the Winners Find a Way show. I am your host, Trent Clark, and I'm super fired up to talk with you today. I am the CEO of Leadershipity, Athletic Influencer Marketing, and I am a serial entrepreneur. And most people know me because I spent 13 years and coached in 3 World Series in Major League Baseball. And I have got my special guest, Rich Shupick, president of Design Financial Group. But as cool as a guest Rich would be, we got a little specialty today for everybody. We're going to go a little different today. And my man, Rich Shupick, is going over to the host role today. And I get to be a guest on my own show. So I'm pretty excited about this, Rich. How you feeling?
I'm feeling great. I think it's about time.
All right. Well, let's just boom. And you're just like that. You're in the host seat, my man. So why don't you just take it away? I'm going to try to get my EO on here, my little work hard, dream big going here.
All
And
right.
try to deliver a high quality show for you, Rich. All right.
Well, good. Well, Coach, so you've got Winners Find a Way. You've met a lot of individuals. You've made it so people get a lot of information. You've probably grown yourself. So now let's find out a little bit about what's going on in your mind. All right.
Awesome. Yeah, I
So let's
love this.
go.
I don't,
If you don't mind,
we could scare the snot out of people, Rich,
I
on what's
love it.
going on in my mind, right?
Well, let's keep it on the business side now.
Okay, good. All right, good. All right, good call. That's good.
So
That's a good
so you
start.
in your career, I mean, you've had a lot of different things that have happened, events that have happened. You and I've, talked a lot about those. So I want you to go back a little bit and tell us about the most impactful pivot point for you, where you at least knew that you had to make a change or that you were destined for leadership and how you made that change.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple things that really happened along my life that just had to pivot. I mean, started early from the time in junior high where I broke my leg and thought, man, I was going to be an NFL football player. And then I broke my leg playing football and thought, hey, maybe I'd be a better baseball player. So there's these little things like, where am I going to put my time and effort and training into? And then, I think one of the big ones was as an athlete playing 2 sports at a Division I school. I had gone through a few injuries and, I got that, you're going to make a good coach conversation. And that was a job transition going on there. I thought I was going to be a player and play forever. And my dream was always to play in the major leagues. So that was a real step back. And I'll tell you, a lot of people would have probably looked into that moment and thought, this is awful. Like, man, your dream's dying and all those things. And I was so tired of being beat up at the time, Rich, that I could still see the goal at the end of the rainbow. I knew there was still a
Yep.
pot of gold there, but it felt like it was getting further and further away. And I was literally spending probably between 4 to 6 hours in the training room just to play, where when I got done playing, I couldn't wash my hair. I'd wash my hair with one hand because I couldn't lift my throwing arm up above my head after playing. It just hurt that bad. And then you just get up and do it again and again, and you don't sleep well at night because if you turn over on your arm in the middle of the night, like it lights you up like a Christmas tree, and you're like, oh my goodness, like, and all of a sudden now I can't go back to sleep because I didn't get a hit yesterday, and I'm trying to stay here. And so it was a lot of pressure and stress, and I felt like, man, maybe it's just not for me. And the blessing in the deal was I had a degree, I could see myself coaching, and I knew that I had a good mentor in strength and conditioning, and he trained me up. And I felt like, man, I've got an avenue that I could go. And I quickly applied to about 7 or 8 teams, and I had 2 job offers within 90 days.
Nice.
Yeah. So it was,
Yeah.
I leaned back on those skills of coaching and educating. And now everyone had been spending a lot of time educating me. But as a college athlete, my part-time job was teaching tennis. And so I would go in the summers and teach at the country clubs and the yacht clubs. And I would teach high-level juniors how to be competing at that top level like I had just done a few years before. And so I had these skill sets that I thought, hey, I like teaching. I have a teaching degree. I understand health and science. I've maximized what I can do with my body, and I think it's over. My body's kind of spent. And so it was, while it was hard to take to be done, and I thought, man, I'm just going to miss the competition side. Man, I didn't miss all the medicine, the training, the treatments. It was it was
It
it
was
was okay
intense.
that I was done.
Yeah. Well, so even at that point, a lot of things you talk about are making sure you have a mentor, and how those, a lot of your guests have always shown how their mentors have really helped change them. And it sounds like you had a pivotal point where a mentor really probably helped you and assisted you in that aspect.
Oh, yeah.
Do
I
you still
mean,
talk to them?
oh, yeah. Like I have had these people in my life. I've been so blessed in this, Rich, that people have always come alongside and they've helped me and they've given me time, effort, and I'm so thankful, which is probably, and you know me, is why I do it for a bunch of people, because I'm just paying it forward, man. Somebody did this for me, and it's what I owe to other people that helped me get to where I want to go. And so, I think the other big thing about mentoring is that, when I tell people about mentoring, I say, pick the 5 greatest people that you know in the world that you think could help you. And they're like, oh man, like Arnold Schwarzenegger, that's crazy. He'll never take my call. And I'm like, oh, he might. Like, when you have people that are such at that highest elite level, and Rich, you've accomplished a lot, you know a ton about wealth management that just most people don't know. And man, how many people, I mean, it's crazy how much knowledge you have. How many people have you ever had go, "Hey, Rich, I really don't really truly understand this. Do you think you could help me get to a level that you had over the next 4 to 5 years?" I mean, how many times has that question come to you, even though you've created millions for all these people? How many times have you been asked that?
None.
People don't know that the people at the rare air at the highest level, people don't ask them. And when you get of age, and I'm going to call myself of age, I don't think Rich, you're as old as I am yet. You're not an old guy yet, but like
Uh,
when you
I
get
don't know. My,
along and
my my beard's given probably giving it away.
you do get a little distinguished gray. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you get to that level, I mean, you're like, I am filled with a bunch of information. And man, there's nothing you would enjoy more than transposing that information onto a hungry 30-year-old who's like, I'm ready to set this world on fire and create some value like you did. And you're like, hey, I can help you do this. Like, and by the way, I can tell you where all the landmines are because I
Right.
stepped in most of them, like, my wife's tired of hearing my stories and everything else. Man, my mentees sit on the edge of the seat and they're ready to take action. And
Yeah.
it's a real dynamic relationship that I have a lot of honor and respect for, from both seats, from both the mentee and the mentor seat. And so, man, if Schwarzenegger's on your list, if Gwyneth Paltrow's on your list, if Rich Shupick's on your list, give him a call, because you know what? I don't think you're going to get to number 5. One of your super 4 are going to say yes.
Yeah. And I think the same thing for you. I mean, NIL has just blown up. I mean, I've
Yeah.
sent you a couple articles.
Yeah.
It was all new and all that, and now it just seems like it's blowing up. And you were on the basically the very very edge of that. I mean, the aspect of you being able to be mentor to someone along that way, a high school athlete, something like that. I mean, so if one of their parents is watching this show, or if they're watching this show, would you take their call?
Oh, of course. Like, I mean, this is what I want to be seen as to others, right? I want to be that trusted advisor. You and I are very similar in this, right? Like, you're being trusted with my life savings, right? It's like, this is my wealth management. We're designing through Design Financial Group. We are designing my retirement, how that's going to look. What do I want from this? And we go, hey, here's my big goal at the end. And then you go, great, I got it. Here's the milestones we need to meet along the way. And I don't know what the milestones group. This is your expertise, and you show us how to do that. So this NIL thing has just led me to my biggest passions, right? Athletics and entrepreneurship. So here's this young high school athlete and parents, you're come alongside these kids. This is an opportunity for a kid to get so many skills at university. Your young son or daughter is going to go to school and learn the things that Rich and I took 30 years to learn: customer service, sales, marketing, brand management, deal making, money, taxes. And you get this little crash course over this maybe $10,000 to $25,000 annual business, and you own your own LLC. And then your son or daughter is going to come out of university with some extensive training in a field that they really want to understand, whatever that is: nursing, accounting, wealth management, fitness and health management, whatever. But they're going to come to guys like Rich and I, and they're going to be like, hey, I'd really like an opportunity. Let me show you what I've done. I've studied nursing, but I've also run a LLC worth $25,000 a year while I played volleyball at Nebraska, and I balanced my time management, and I was all conference while I got a 3.7, and I had 4 deals. And here's 3 chief marketing officers of 3 different companies that would be happy to speak on my behalf and tell you that I'm a pretty quality person. And I'm like, hired. Hey, Diane, you could tell all the other resumes they can go
They
home.
can go home.
I just spoke to this young lady, and she's just set my world on fire, and I don't need to look anywhere else.
Yeah. So talking about that, I mean, being in the field and being, at the front edge of that, let's talk about some of the difficulties along the way. When you've had some experiences, we've talked about them. Tell me about the time that you felt like you were against it, you were losing, and you had to find a way to, fight back and come back and really put down any doubt, and which comes to the,
Yeah.
cusp of the
Yeah.
show, right? Winners
I
find
mean,
a
yeah,
way.
man,
So
listen.
tell us.
Yeah, I mean, starts my whole life, right? Like, I mean, I felt like I've always been pushing the rock uphill. I mean, part of this, Rich, is you and I are close friends, and you know what I look like. And a lot of people out there in podcast land don't. I am 5'6", 175 pounds. I mean, I played at probably 170 to 180, pretty diesel, 5% body fat, blah, blah, and doing everything possible to compete with people that were often a lot bigger, faster, stronger than I was. So, at a very young age, I was this, and this is a distinct story, was me at the end of my 7th grade year writing this program we had for school. Tell us what your life is going to be like when you're 30 years old. And I thought, this is funny, because when I'm 30 years old, like I am in junior high, man. I am 12 years old. I'm in my favorite English teacher's class. He's really good. He's probably calling it in before spring break, right? Like, hey, this is going to be a little writing exercise for you. And then what you see for yourself. So first time ever doing vision work, first time ever setting a goal, even though he's not using those words, right?
Right.
And he asks 5 distinct questions. And man, I think I took the assignment seriously, because I wanted to do some things in my life, and I was really driven for those things. And I was also the youngest of 4. So I was sitting there going, hey, my oldest brother was a hockey player, and he was trying to get on Michigan State's hockey team, which was highly touted top 5 program in the country. And then my next brother was an all-state tailback, running for 9.5 yards a carry. He was, going to the state finals, and, heavily recruited. And that was kind of neat, seeing college coaches come to my house and, letting them know, like, hey, your defense kind of sucks. And they're like, hey, beat it, kid. You're 12. All right. And I want to talk to your brother. I really don't want to talk to you. And then my sister had just been named Miss Michigan Teen. And,
Wow.
I was like, man, I'm way better than my brothers and sisters. I'm going to play in the major leagues, right? Of course.
Right.
So, now fast forward, I turn in my assignment and off I go, right? And now fast forward about 2-3 years later, it's after my freshman year in high school, and we have a local showcase. Before there was all this showcase and all this stuff, right? It's a showcase, invite only, for the top players in about the local 8 counties. and it's run by a former major league player. And
Wow.
so first of all, you got to get an invite. So I
Yep.
get the Willy Wonka golden ticket invite, and I'm like,
All
yeah,
right.
I'm in, man. Like I'm pretty good, and like they recognize it, right? And I was playing for a very good team, and a lot of my teammates also got invited. And so I read the ticket, and it's like, hey, if you are named the MVP of the week, you have a one-on-one sit down with the former major leaguer and director of the showcase, this
Mm.
person. And I was like, oh, that's me. I got to find a
Game
way. How
on.
do I do this? Like, I don't know how to get to the major leagues. I don't know anybody in the major leagues. So I gotta get this. So man, go to work, right? Like hitting, running, sprinting, lifting. I'm doing everything. I'm tapping my college. What are you guys doing at college, man? I got to train like that. Like I'm asking everything I can do. And you and I both know like what happens when preparation and opportunity meet. And sure enough, I had a fabulous week, and it was super awesome. And there were some really good players there. Obviously I'm from an area where Derek Jeter's from. So, I like to,
Ooh.
I don't know if you know or not, I was MVP of the camp, yeah. So, I don't tell people that Derek was 3 years younger than I was, but like that's fine. And, so when I sat down with him, this was that moment where probably I kind of just got in, and he said, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to do what you did. I want to play in the major leagues. And he said, he kind of gave me this, all right, well, I think you can do that. And I was like, whoa, what? I was like,
Right.
oh, really? I was expecting to hear no, like everybody else has told
Hmm.
me. And then, stupid kid, brain, right? Like I didn't even think about it probably in the moment, but it probably didn't sound very respectful. But I did say, but I did use the term, hey, with all due respect. So I guess that gave me the pass, right? Hey, with all due respect, I don't think you know shit. No, with all due respect, I said, everybody else is telling me no. And he was like, oh, all right. He goes, hey, let me ask you a question. I go, great, shoot. And he goes, hey, these people are telling you no. Who are these people? Like, yeah, my freshman coach, my gym teacher, my mom, my employer. And he's like, oh, all right. Um, any of them play in the major leagues? And I was like,
Ooh.
no,
No.
no, none of them did. Why? And he's like, well, let me give you a little piece of advice, Trent. I strongly caution you taking advice from someone who hasn't done what you want to do.
Right.
So what do they know about it? I've been there. I know what it takes. And I'm telling you that you have what it takes. And I was like, yes, sir. I'm a believer, man.
All right.
Here's this moment in my life. And everyone, when they've told me no, the rest of my life, from that moment on, Rich, and you and I have built businesses, right? Multi-million-dollar businesses. And people tell you no. Oh, that's not gonna work. Oh, yeah, that's not gonna work. You're not
Yep.
gonna be able to get that. And you're like, oh, really? Because have you done it? Like, oh no, but I did stay at Holiday Inn Express last night. Yeah, like beat it, man. Like, like
Then
I'm
make
not
a
listening.
commercial.
Yeah, like I'm not listening to your advice. And it's not disrespectful. It's just that, hey, thanks. Thanks for your opinion. But that's in one ear, out the other. And I think that's one thing about the entrepreneur organization I've learned is like, man, when you're around people who have actually done it, man, edge of your seat, you perk up and listen, take your notes,
Yep.
because this is time to be around people that have been out there and they're on it. So, I think that was the one thing that when people tell you no, you don't have to let those naysayers in. Like,
Right.
and I think in a both positive and negative way, I let that in as a very positive driver for me. Big chip on my shoulder, like, you know what, I'll show you. I'm gonna do it, man. Like, and I think that worked in a lot of ways. But I also think it was probably negative in some way. When I started showing people, I thought like, I showed them. And, I think there was some negative connotation, probably some lack of humility around that. I didn't go back and make a list and say, hey, you told me no. And I just want to make sure, that, I didn't do that. I wasn't that guy,
Mm.
but it certainly felt like redemption, and it was a big deal. And, so we know how vision and goal work. I think this is really important, as a 12-year-old sitting in class and, you know, the song of the day being Prince's Party Like It's 1999, right? I mean, I was like, I'm going to turn 30 on December 31st, 1999, right? That was my assignment. What are these questions? And I'm like, Prince, 2000, like, yeah, like that is so far away. Like, are you crazy? I'm 12.
Mm.
And I'm answering these questions, and now, like, fast forward, like in 1999, I went home to see my parents, and for Christmas, for the holidays, and my mother says, "Hey, a letter came for you from the school." And I'm like, "Oh, well, that's got to be a request for alumni. Hey, you've done really well. Why don't you send us some cash?" Right? And she's like, "No, no, no, it's from the grade school." And I was like, "Oh, that's interesting." And so Mr. Midcalf, my instructor, has my assignment on this little,
No
sheet of
way.
paper, on this little notebook paper that you rip out of, your
Yeah.
your spiral. It's still got the edges on it. And he says one thing on the thing. He says, "How'd you do? How'd you do?" And I'm like, "Oh my gosh." I'm telling my wife, I was like, "I totally remember this assignment."
This
Hadn't
is
thought about it.
amazing.
18
Yeah.
years, had not thought about it. And I pull this thing out and I'm like, man, this is crazy. First question, what are you going to do immediately after high school? I said, yeah, I'll be playing baseball at Arizona State University. Barry Bonds was pretty good there when I was in high school. And I was like, yeah, they're really good. And like, they're probably going to be recruiting me. They never called. So I played at the University of Toledo. All right. So
Hey.
yeah, that's how that went. All right. Number two, what will your job be? And I said, yeah, I'll be playing in the major leagues. And at 30 years old, and I was not. I was coaching for the Los Angeles Angels, and so I was coaching and I'd already coached for the Cleveland Indians in the major leagues and been to the World Series twice. And I had come home from the West Coast. So the third question was, where will you live? And I said, well, I'll be living in a golf and tennis community because hell with the snow, like I'm I'm done with the cold of Michigan, right? And so I was like, man, I gotta go out and go to Arizona, and I'll be living in a golf and tennis community in Arizona.
Yeah.
And I had flown in the night before from my golf and tennis community in Arizona.
All right.
And the fourth question was, will you be married? I think it was, would you be married? And I said, yeah, I'm going to marry a blonde girl taller than me. Okay. That wasn't that hard to find at 5'6", right? Like, so, but I did do that, right? Like, she's a
Yeah.
Dutch girl, and she's
Yeah.
taller than I am. And so all my boys are taller than me. They love her for that. And so they didn't get my genes, right? So, that I did do that. And then the last thing was like, what will your family be like? And I said, I'd have a son. And our son Noah was a year and a half old. We were bringing him home to see my parents and spend time with his grandparents. His other grandparents were deceased, and at a young age, and so he was spending that first Christmas with his Nana and Papa. And now he could remember it, right? The first one at five and a
Yeah.
half months, right? Not so much. And so now it's the gifts and the running around. And man, I just thought, like, it was such a lesson for me, Rich, about what do you really want? What are you going for? And I never looked at that sheet again in my life. But when guys like us, we were running around high school acting stupid, and I was like, man, I can't eliminate myself from a college scholarship. So I'm not going to be doing something against the law. We're
Right.
not going to be stealing cars. We're not going to be smoking dope. I'm not going to be doing that stuff because I think I'm going to get one shot at this thing, man, because everybody else is telling me no. And I gotta tell them I can do it. And so that was a driver for me all the time.
Yeah. Well, I think you kind of answered this, but I want to make sure. I mean, one of the things that you do ask a lot of your guests, and I want you the opportunity to, feel that seat right there just for a
Okay.
moment.
Yeah.
What's one belief, value, or action that you recommend to others on their journey when things get hard and
Yeah.
when they're on the road to trying to make it so that they're in the elite class?
Yeah. Yeah, it's so the one value for me that I think is so important to people is self-belief. It's, you got to go to the mirror And you may have to do this every day, Rich. You and I have been through some dark times, right? We've seen some
Mm-hmm.
tough things. You may have to go to the mirror every day and look in and go, I have what it takes. I have what it takes. And you don't believe it, right? It's like, you know what? I'm gonna try again tomorrow because right now, all of the things in my mind are like, oh man, you screwed up. You lost, $500,000. Like you made a bad trade. Like anything that you can think of, right? We're our own worst enemy. And that critic, man, you got to silence that critic. Self-belief is a big deal. And this is why the 5 people, we always talk about the 5 people you choose to be around. The reason you and I are close friends, Rich, is because I love you, 1, and
Well,
2
thanks,
is
man.
when I see you, I don't you lift me up, right? You don't, "Oh, you're really mucking it up." You're you're like, "Oh, man, you're so encouraging," and you give me strength, and I get energy from you that, yes, I believe in me and Rich believes in me, and I need that in my life, right? And so these are what good people do for you. And if you don't surround yourself with those folks, like it's hard, man. It's hard out there, bro. Like it is
Yeah.
hard out there. You don't need someone to come home to and go, yeah. So you went out and screwed it up again today, huh? Like, like, yeah, it was tough out there, man. Like, and I'm doing my best here, and it's gonna be better tomorrow than it was today. But I worked hard today, and I believe in myself, and I really need you to believe in me too. And and if you don't have that, man, that's a hard journey.
It is. So you have in your world, I mean, you've got a lot of talent, you've got a lot of things coming on you, serial entrepreneur. What helps you stay focused? And that way you can get the things done you need to get done.
Yeah, I think that's a constant battle for a guy like me, right? That is very hard. And I think that the daily is so important. I think setting my day up is so important. And I'm going pretty hard. I own 4 brands right now. And in addition to the speaking and all the other stuff, and 5 kids and a grandson and a wife of 28 years. And if I don't set my day up the night before, I'll give a little shout out to the Oak Journal. That's a really key element that I found a lot of value in, where levels my morning, kind of gets me set up. But more importantly for me, I think a lot of people struggle with their morning because of the night before. And I'm guilty of this, right? You get hard travels, you get things that you don't get to bed, and eventually you have to cut it off and you have to settle the body down. And what really helps me sleep is I write my Oak Journal for the next day about what my things I have to accomplish. These are the most important things to help us get to where we're going to do. And a lot of people rely on me on that. And if I don't do those things, um, things are not likely to go well. And so prioritization is a big deal. And, I interviewed a good mentor of mine, Ken Manny, that strength coach early on, who was such a pivotal part of my life. When I interviewed him for my show, he talked about this day for that day. And, we've all got that day that
Yeah.
I retire, that day that, I get the college scholarship, that day that I get my dream job, that day that we build the dream home, that day of retirement, whatever that day is for you, there's a lot of this days, right? And I'm writing a book right now for Wiley Publishing, and I've got to have that day done is Thanksgiving, right? And so I've got about 80 this days until that day. And so everything that I do every day, I've got to be intentional about getting my work in, because I can't do it in 3 days. So I've got to be very intentional about how I do my days and what I do this day for that day. We're either getting better or we're getting worse every day. You don't stay the same. So be intentional about this day because you want to get a little bit better.
So can you give a prelude to on the book that you're working on?
Yeah, yeah. We're talking about winners find a way, and how athletes and how the skills of athletes has transferred over to people in leadership and business ownership and creating value and impact because of the lessons of sport and how they transitioned to life. And we're going to talk about how winners find a way.
Well, great.
I'm excited about it. Yeah.
Well, that's cool. So you've got this opportunity. You're going to take a lot of the knowledge you already have and put it down so we can read it. And well, great.
Yeah. Pretty
So
excited.
here's a really good question for you.
Okay.
All right. Knowing what you know now,
Mm.
what might you have done differently?
Ooh, man. Yeah, like this is the pain exchange right here, Rich. The pain exchange is the pain of discipline or the pain of regret, right?
Yeah.
You get to choose. The pain exchange means that you learn that when we're disciplined, it's not comfortable, right? It's not great. It hurts still, but it's acute. It doesn't last very long. Um, the pain of regret is chronic, man. I mean, there are just times in my life that I look back and I just didn't treat people well, didn't make good choices, and it really came down to laziness. It came down to not being intentional, not focused, and bad moments, because bad moments are fatigue. Because fatigue makes
Hmm.
cowards of us all, right? And so we get this thing in our life, and I think the thing about regret that's dangerous to people is that people want to drown that pain in something, right? Whether it's chemicals, sex, money, work, you name it. We've got more than enough, like things that we could go dive into. We've got plenty of things that we'd like to go to that help us try to alleviate the pain. And it does for a short period, but the time you always wake up with you, and the pain of regret stays in you. So if what I know now, man, staying on your moral conditioning is really important. That's really important. Because if you look at people's regrets, it's 3 to 10 just really bad moments in their life that were probably brought on by alcohol, brought on by poor decisions, by bad people they chose to be around, and they knew it was the wrong people to be around at the moment, and not necessarily bad people, just people making bad choices, right?
Hmm.
And so when you look at that, I think you got to be really intentional as a young person on where you want to go and where you want to be. And if you're not, I think it's too easy to get lost, to get on the wrong road.
Yeah, I agree. There's a book by Napoleon Hill, and this really talks about drifters
Yeah.
and making sure that you're not drifting because that's when all that stuff starts happening. When you're not at
Yeah.
the wheel, the car goes off, goes where it wants, not where you want it to go.
Oh, yeah, and that's so important, right? Like I have a good friend named John Bloomberg on the speaking tour. John's a fabulous consultant and speaker, and um, John and I talked about this concept of catch my drift, because the reason, Rich, you know me and you can level me in a minute. And the reason you can level me is because I trust you. We've built a relationship. So when I go drifting off what's good and right for me, and all of a sudden the language doesn't match, of my values, and my actions seem like, hey, that's not like you. Here's Rich to reach out and go, hey, let's get back on the line, Trent. You're kind of drifting here. Like, so hey, catch my drift, man. I need those 5 people around me to kind of keep me level, because we don't go running away from what's right. We just drift.
Yeah. Well, and this is a unique opportunity for individuals. I mean, for a leader like you, how do they find those 5 people? I mean, we've talked about this a lot. You're really a sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with, and so you have to make sure that you guard those 5 people with
Yeah.
precision. How do you go about, or how would you recommend individuals reaching out, getting those 5 people? It goes back to the mentorship, right? Goes back
Yeah.
to a little bit about your belief idea there to help them along the way. And I think this might be an insightful aspect. And if we're intruding on your book too far, you let me know.
That's great.
But
That's great. This is helping me write it right here.
all right.
So, yeah, I mean, I think that it's absolutely, how do you self-select into those people? Because there's a lot of people like, oh, I think I'd love to have someone who's gone about and done something. Now, sometimes they may not be close and you may not be able to reel them in as a top 5, but like when you think about, for me, immediately when I think about who I want, right? I want winners. I want winners that find a way. This is my like bailiwick, right? I mean, I set a standard of values around me based on the show, which is winners, when shown data that they are losing, find a way to win. Those people that are solution driven, that don't take no for an answer, don't like losing, and are absolutely willing to do the work, they show out to me immediately in a couple different ways. They use words of affirmation like, hey, I'm going to retire with $4 million in net cash because Rich is helping me. It's not I hope to retire with 4 million. No. I'm doing it because I got rich. Like, and we got a plan, and I'm enacting that plan, and it's already speaking in a term of action that I've just laid my future and I speak my future. So I listen for people who speak their future. I think that's a big deal. I always listen for I will. If they're, someone needs around here to take out the trash. I will. I will do it. Hey, we need someone to talk to this client who's really upset. Oh, I will. I will do that. Like, there are hard things in this world, and the person who says I will do the hard things. I'll step up and lead here when no one else wants to. I'll take on this issue and I'll own the responsibility because it's a big itty, right? They're saying, hey, I will take the responsibility.
Right.
And so I want to be around people like that because they're action. They're doers. And when we talk about committed or interested, are you interested or are you committed?
Big
Choose
difference.
committed people. And so how do I decipher committed people? It's really easy. When I'm around Rich Shupick, he's committed and I see it all the time because when I know exactly where he's at 5:30 in the morning, he's up doing the work. He's committed to the effort and what has to happen, his own health, his wellness, his family. He's up taking action. I'm interested in losing weight, but I'm never at the gym. I eat horrible foods. I don't choose a diet plan. I'm not taking any action. I know all the things to be in good fitness and in health. And then if I don't take the actions, I'm just interested in good health. I'm not committed to good health
Yeah.
because committed is doing and interested is talking. And so I surround myself with people who are people of action. And if I ever really need one of my 5 friends to do something for me, I go find the busiest one. Why?
Okay.
Because the busiest one gets shit done, right?
Yeah.
Like, they got so much to do because they know how to get it done. They've
Yeah.
got this doctorate in the GSD, man. They get stuff done. And it's like, the busiest person is who you should find, not the person walking around with nothing to do. They're not going to help you. The
Yep.
busiest person is going to find a way and a quick solution to do stuff. And this is why athletes make a lot of good employees, because they understand time management. They understand prioritization. They understand what's important and what's not important. And we need to discern that. There's also some losing behaviors that I won't stand for. I won't have them around me. They're not allowed in our organizations that we team up and coach and help develop. They're not part of GrowCo. If you're going to have these behaviors, we're going to eliminate them. And if you can't eliminate them on my own, you may eliminate yourself from the opportunity if you're going to show these behaviors. And the 4 major losing behaviors is, first, excuses, right? That's a huge losing behavior. I can't have around me. People who are always quick with an excuse of why it didn't work out. Maybe worse is number 2 is blame. It wasn't me.
Yep.
I would have had 4 million, but it was Rich's fault. Like, oh, really? Like, we're going to blame somebody who wrote the plan, who didn't have any part of the action, right? And so 3 is they quit when it gets hard.
Yeah.
I mean, I just, being me and quitters, man, we're not gonna get along. And 4 is people that ignore the data. I call them ostrich. Like they stick their head in the sand and ignore what's happening. Like, I played for a guy when I was in junior high and basketball like that. Great guy, love the guy, nice, super guy. But listen, we're down 28-4 in this junior high basketball game. And he's like, hey, let's keep doing the same thing next half. Like, we're doing great, kids. I appreciate the encouragement, but like, let's not ignore the data. We are getting our butts kicked and this isn't fun. And if we just keep doing the same, we still got more of the same.
Right.
Right. So they scored another 30 points in the second half and we scored another 4. So, not fun. And ignoring the data is not okay for me. And so when you think about also the people around you, you got to align yourself values wise about where you're at on, how are they on their physical health and what they think about that. That's important to me, right? And then how do they treat people and how we're going to show up as professionals in this world, because we make an impact on a lot of people, and that's a responsibility that we carry. And when I'm working with companies and I'm not sure exactly how many people, but you say you have 100 people in your organization at Design Financial Group, you got to consider the fact that when Rich Shupick makes a final decision, he's making a decision for 400 people, because
Yeah.
we all have families of 4, and it's deciding like if we're going to be able to get a second car, if the kids can go to college, can they go to private school? What will we do without this job? I mean, we're making decisions for a lot of people that it impacts. And I think about that a lot, man, as I travel the world speaking. I'm on my own. I'm sitting in New York the other night, right, having dinner, and I see this nice family come in. They bring their 3 kids in and a friend of their kids and provide dinner. And there's a guy like Rich Shupick out there, or a nice woman who's busted her butt to create an opportunity for this person to have a job that they get to entertain their family and their kids and provide for them because someone took a risk. So, man, I got a lot of honor for entrepreneurs and what they do in our society and our environment to create impact and create legacy for people, because they give us purpose.
Yeah. There's I forget when you said it, but it's always stuck with me. Making sure that you look at the data, and winners make sure that they're always tracking something. And if it's not working, they go back in and fix it. What are some key metrics that you focus on yourself that
Mm.
others can take from and use themselves if they haven't figured out how to create their own yet?
Yeah, yeah, that's a good question. The data doesn't lie, right?
Nope.
I see those bumper stickers like, trust God, all else bring data, right? Like, and I love that sticker. And it's funny because in sports, we always talk about, the video doesn't lie. The
Right.
statistics don't lie, right? And so these stats are telling us history. And I don't know if I want to make all decisions based on, a lagging metric, but because we're improving beings, right? We're
Right.
we're doing things better. But I do think you have to have both lagging KPI metrics of history and recognizing that data and what we need to repair, and then we also need to have, looking forward on what are the things we have to do. And so based on some of those metrics, I create a lot of metrics around myself, knowing that, hey, if I have 25 discussions with people in our Grow Co every month, we sign on about 3 or 4 clients out of that, and so that's, if I don't hit
So your matrix
25.
is 25, then
Yeah, there's
let's
a
just
25
assume that's it.
conversation point. Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
25 conversation point. And in the NIL experience, if we talk to, 10 club organizations, we're going to land one of 5, and they're going to need this advice for their kids, and they need a trusted advisor to help them, and they want to invest in those kids, and they're the right organizations and right fits for us. So for me personally, um, I think my health and wellness is a metric. So I look at my weight and my sugar intake and how much water I drink. I love 75 Hard. Andy Frizelis put together just incredible program. Great kind of crazy podcast too. He's always a top 5 guy in podcasting. Um, but yeah, I mean, 75 Hard's incredible program of teaching people discipline. And I think this is one of the things from the Winners Find a Way that other people don't get, is that athletes are held to metrics and standards from the beginning, and they're
Yep.
taught discipline, much like the military teaches discipline. Like, hey, listen, I can turn you into this cock diesel fighting machine. We're going to follow these steps. And you're like, yeah, I don't like the steps. Yeah, we don't care because
Doesn't
we know
matter.
exactly how to do it. And there's going to be some real pain of discipline to get you to where we want you to be. And it's going to be acute. It's going to hurt right now. And you got to deal with that discipline. But then you're going to look back and go, holy cow, man, I am a different person. And if you've seen some of these young men and women who go to, boot camp and then come back, leave June 1 boot camp and come back at Christmas, you're like, holy crap, what happened to Maggie May? Because she went to boot camp and like, she lost 22 pounds. She's felt and fit and stronger than anything and can run 4 miles in combat boots in 40 minutes. Like, are you kidding me? Like, this is training.
And they have confidence now.
To a level. Yeah. And by the way, yeah, right. When you get that and you get that you've embraced the pain exchange and you've embraced that pain of discipline. Oh man, that mirror looks so much better, right? That confidence when I look at it, like, hey, you can do it. I can do this. And you start believing it now. Like you're like, man, because people are giving you also reasons to believe it, right? Because when Maggie May sees her friends from high school over Christmas, they're going, holy cow, Maggie May, what have you been doing? Like, you look great. You are just fit. Like, holy smokes. And she's like, hey, yeah, I'm glad you noticed. Thank you. And she's like, and the shoulders are coming up, coming back, walking tall, feeling good. And man, I've watched that in athletes my whole life. Like, I will train you up. I've told them, I'll make you famous. I'll make you famous. Like, you want to come in? Listen to what I tell you to do. Like, the formula for success is, Rich, it's really simple. It's just not easy. It's not easy, right? Yep. It's like, oh my gosh, I got to choose to get up 75 hard. I got to choose to get up, do a workout in the morning, inside or outside, and then do another workout in the afternoon, drink a gallon of water, read 10 pages to help me improve, eat well, get enough sleep. I mean, there's some requirements here, and you better.
That's a job itself right there.
Yeah. You got to plan your day and prioritize of how I take really good care of myself. But at the end of 75 days, it's unbelievable. The transformation. You go, wow, if I can do that, I can do a lot of stuff. Right? I mean, that was hard. And it turns out my job's actually kind of easy. like this isn't anything like this. Why am I not kicking the snot out of this thing? In fact, if I approach my job like I approached the 75 hard thing, I'm going to be the regional manager in 2 years. That's right. You are. So once you accept that pain exchange and you become that person, like, watch out.
All right. So I'm going to open this up a little bit. I mean, we're getting close on time.
Yeah.
You've done a lot of interviews. You've met a lot of individuals that are inspiring. I mean, and if anybody's watching this, go back. This may be one episode, but go back. You can keep going through them and learning stuff. Pick a couple, maybe at least one, of the interviews that you've done where it impacted you and it may have changed the way you ran your business or what you do in your personal life, or a change in your life where the direction was moved because of that moment.
Yeah. Man, I tell you, it's so good to be the seat that I get to sit in, right? Because man, I get guys like you, man, like I get to sponge it up and just learn. And I try, like, in part of that, get better every day. I want to learn something every day and take a nugget that I can apply and do something. And that's a hard thing to do, but it's a lifelong value. So there are a lot. I think, like, when I look back at some of the things that really happened, I think about Allison Hodson, young lady from Edmonton, Canada, EOer. And the thing I learned about her that really set her aside from me, from a lot of other people, and I learned is like, she learns in the good and the bad. And I was really good at learning on failure, Rich. Man, like when I failed, I was like, oh man, I'm going to fix this. I'm not failing ever again. Like I wanted to fix it. I don't like to fail twice the same way. And I may fail again, but I'll fix that too. But the one thing that she sets her side, like she extracts and sponges everything out of every experience. So when we talk about Allison, like she has this great gut instinct, right? I don't believe in gut instinct. What she has is she has hundreds of thousands of experiences in her life, and she's extracted every element and she's filed it away internally, and something happens. She goes, I know exactly what I need to do here.
Yeah.
I've been through this before, and I've seen something like this, and I know what's about to happen next. And she's got great insights, and you're just like, I think part of that's a women's intuition. I think they're better at processing and pulling
I
that
would
out.
agree.
Yeah, and I think women just do that better. But I learned from her, man, like you got to learn in all environments, both good and bad. Like why was it good? Why did we win? Why are we winning? Because we're really
Hmm.
often good. Sports teaches you when you lose, you better figure out a way to win, right? Like you better go back to the video and win. But I'm amazed at going into organizations and they don't go to the tapes, they don't look back, and they don't like, hey, why didn't you get the RFP? I don't know. Let's write the next one. And I'm like, well, probably help if you knew why you didn't get the last one. And they're not very good at that. And then here's this person who just takes it to a whole nother level. The other one was like Scott Spezio, who's been a longtime friend. I coached him with the Angels, hero of Game 6 in the World Series in '02, which that big one.
Yep.
He was the guy, yeah, and just had a hero moment. And he just really understood the day to day and the value. And man, this was a guy who had a lot of admiration about his commitment and dedication every day. And he got lost. He lost his way. He lost his family. He lost his kids. He succumbed to drugs and alcohol. And man, he nearly killed himself. He nearly eliminated himself from the whole game, right?
Yep.
Like from the whole game, right? And man, he has an unwavering faith now that I just admire and respect. And man, I think it's a real part of that drift for people out there who don't have a higher power. It's not about us, right? It's not about
Right.
you. If we focus too much on me, I, we're already on the drift, right? And so, I think I've got a rich Shupick and other people, but I hope that I've got the Lord also reaching across saying, drifting, Trent, come on back, and I think that if we don't have that in our lives, I think that really helped me get back focused and got into a Bible study, and started leading them about every man a warrior and really learning about how to be better dads, fathers, men, and men of impact in this world. And I think that's part of that moral conditioning. If we're not doing
Yep.
that, watch out.
I agree.
Yeah. So, but man, we're almost our 100th episode. There's so many, Rich. I mean, that's a whole another 4 shows. Like, hey, it'll be in the book though.
Right.
So like, there you go.
So if we've kind of touched on the book a little bit about that, tell us a little bit more about that. When can we expect it? I'm not trying to add pressure to you. I know
Yeah,
you
yeah,
said
yeah. Well,
these days, and then that day. So
yeah, I don't.
this is my in way of getting your goals set,
Yeah,
and then they happen.
yeah. Yeah, I don't get to control all of it, but my first draft and completion is done by Thanksgiving. So, typically that's going to be 6 months to a little bit longer than that after. So, I would expect the book will probably come out like late spring, early summer of 2024, and that's what we're gunning for. And hopefully, there's no strikes like the film industry just like who knows what's going to happen. But in an ideal world, I think we'd be out there, and we're looking to have a good speaker tour going, and it should be a lot of fun.
Well, thank you so much. Um, I know that your listeners will see the value in this conversation, and especially the episode today, and maybe highlighted a few episodes they could go back and start pulling some of that stuff that you learned and that they can learn from too because of you.
Yeah.
And I will tell you right now. I mean, I've always said this. Uh, your inspiration of just being positive when I give you a call, I never get off the call like, man, oh, I feel for him. I get off the call where I'm energized and like I need to fix something. Like I need to go do that right now. So
Mm.
I just want to personally thank you as a friend, and hopefully individuals get that out of you also. Um, anything closing up? I'm not used to being the host,
Yeah.
so you tell us
Yeah,
how to
yeah.
wrap this baby
Well,
up.
yeah. First of all, fabulous job hosting, Rich. I think you did a great
Thanks.
job, and you have a real knack for this. The host is the most, making me feel very good. I'm sweating, man. I don't
Yeah.
know if I like this seat. So yeah, I do like this seat too, but it is different from the other side. So for everyone out there, really thankful that I could get in the hot seat today, and to my good friend Rich, who helped put me there, and his idea, not mine. So I was really excited about a little twist on the show. And so it's cool from a faithful listener and a good friend who comes in and says, hey man, I got kind of a cool idea. And like, hey, let's try it. Like, I love this.
Let's see it.
So yeah. So for everybody else, thank you for joining us on another episode of Winners Find a Way as we near our 100th episode. So super excited about that. Always Friday, 12:30 p.m. Eastern, 9:30 a.m. Pacific. Our Leadership at a YouTube channel, LinkedIn Live, Facebook Live, and you can find all of our podcasts on all your major networks of podcasting. So check us out and look for the book, Winners Find a Way. We're excited about promoting that book next year in 2024. So thank you to my good friend, Rich Shupick, and we'll see you next time on the Winners Find a Way show.